Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Julia, for getting us started tonight. Good evening to everyone. Welcome. Also, Jason from the Pride Democratic Council. We welcome you. Thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to the Beaufort County Democratic Party's Summer 2025 Listening Sessions, a series of virtual roundtables intended to amplify the voices of our diverse communities here in Beaufort County. Tonight's listening session spotlights our LGBTQ plus voters. My name is Kathleen Hughes, and I serve as chair of the Beaufort County Democratic Party. South Carolina, and particularly Beaufort County, now plays a very significant role in national and state politics. Due to South Carolina's early primary status, presidential hopefuls are already visiting, and national media outlets are attending political events to discuss the needs, hopes, and concerns of our local voters. Additionally, Beaufort County voters are crucial to winning back Congressional District 1, the seat which is currently held by Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And local candidates will soon be running to stop the GOP supermajority that we have in our state house in Columbia. This political prominence makes you, the voters of Beaufort County, very important people. Through your voices and personal stories, local and federal candidates will be able to gain a better understanding of the needs of our communities. The listening sessions will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel, promoted through social media and to the national press, and shared directly with our candidates. So let's get started. I would like to introduce our moderator tonight, Angela Wright. Angela is a Beaufort-based small business owner, therapist, and community organizer. Angela will lead our panelists through a series of 4 questions, which are intended to highlight the concerns and needs of the LGBTQ plus community and individuals in this moment. The questions were provided to the panelists in advance. Panelists are asked to keep their responses to about 3 minutes so that each panelist has the opportunity to speak. And finally, to our viewers who are not panelists, please remain muted at all times. If you would like to submit questions, please do so through the chat box, and Angela may address 1 or 2 at the end if there is time. Questions and panelists, the questions will be optional for you to answer to your comfort level, okay? So thank you all once again for being here. And with that, I will turn this evening's discussion over to Angela.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm Angela Wright, and I'll be leading tonight's discussion. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to be here tonight. I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Lisa Konecki, Michelle Jenkins, Bernie Scalero, and Sam Baggett. So our first question tonight is, what do you see as the most important issue for Beaufort's LGBTQ community? And we'll start with Lisa.
Unmute. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching this live or the recording, I am coming to you from the land of the Yamasee people, as well as the Gullah Geechee people. And so a shout out to our indigenous folks. And if you are listening, this is what a Wisconsin accent sounds like. So I just have to put that out there to begin with. No need to adjust your volume. My wife and I moved here 2 years ago. And I think that's what's important to me. No offense to the wonderful weather that is down here, but we never would have moved from Madison, Wisconsin if it weren't for family. If you don't know anything about Madison, Wisconsin, think about the best liberal hub in the entire world, except for cold weather. And so to answer the question, I'm getting back to it, Angela. It's important for me to keep young people, not only young people, to keep people alive. To me, that is the most important thing to me. So safety and quality of life would be what I would take a look at. Having again moved here 2 years ago to a very red neighborhood that I live in. I'll just say that. We were very nervous to have pride flags and anything out, just to say, just for our safety's sake. And so my background, I was a middle school counselor for 12 years and a camp director with the YMCA and with the Girl Scouts. So I'm all about nonprofits. I'm all about school counselors. I served on the National Board of Directors. And so for me, it is keeping everyone alive and then education. I'm going to stop there because boy, I could talk a lot. So education to anyone and everyone and keeping people alive. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Lisa. And Michelle, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you see as the most important issue for Beaufort County's LGBTQ plus community?
All right, can you hear me? All right, can you guys hear me? Okay. I believe that the most important issue for, as a South Carolinian myself, I was born and raised here in Beaufort, South Carolina. And kind of to hit off of what Lisa said as well, just all around safety, just all around feeling comfortable enough to be yourself at any given moment, no matter where you're at with here, like within South Carolina. As being a resident here for most of my life, I haven't really run into a lot of issues, but there is still that kind of, you still kind of feel for the spaces that you go in, you know, not to feel too comfortable in a sense. But also to say I have never been made to feel too uncomfortable, at least in the places that I have been. Most of the areas that I've typically traveled in have tended to be a little bit more diverse, such as the larger cities like Columbia and Charleston, and even just like across the border over to like Savannah, Georgia, and just kind of being in spaces where we know where we will find other people like us and just other spaces that you don't have to second guess them, you know. But having that within our own state is very important and very crucial. Not everybody has the ability to to get transportation to areas such as that. So just being able to feel comfortable in your own state, I think, is just a big plus all around, no matter the age.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And Bernie, I'm going to ask you to answer the same question.
Hear me okay?
Mhm.
Okay. I first have to give a shout out to Lisa. I met her in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the NEA conference years ago. We visited. I was from Iowa. She was from Wisconsin. And I think we saw each other at the June, it was Pride Festival thing going on in Minnesota. So I bonded with her. Then she came and spoke in Iowa at a conference, and I went to one of her about safe spaces. We talked about safe spaces. And so I have to say hi to Lisa because I haven't seen her for years, and I remember her dearly. I thought she was a lot of fun, and she's very good. So anyway,
Sending you love, Bernie.
I first of all, I'm from Iowa. Came down. I actually bought into Sun City in 2010. So I've actually had a house here for years. It's been the last year and a half that I've really spent my time here. I actually did write something. Is that okay if I wrote something out on this one? Because I had put my thoughts together kind of last minute. So I just want to kind of share. To me, the most important thing is right now, discrimination is being accepted and hate and violence is becoming normalized. And I feel we're in a moment of history where people feel it's okay that the rights of individuals are being taken away at the hand of some political overreach. You know, they say all politics is local, but the power and control is from top down. So you have the national government accepting and promoting bigotry. And then you have somebody like our own Nancy Mace terrorizing people like our representative, Sarah McBride, because she's trans. Now you move that locally, and back in April, two schools here, Hilton Head High School and May River High School, was directed by the district to remove any LGBTQ plus items because parents complained that it violated federal state policy eliminating DEI in the classrooms. So what was taken down? A pride flag and then an emblem, I believe, with rainbow colors that had to be taken down. I was a public school counselor for many years in Iowa. And then I was on school board for a year and a half when I replaced someone who had to step down. And I watched and dealt with trying to give safe spaces to students who didn't feel safe, and trans students who aren't yet able to talk to parents and not sure where their identity, what it meant for them and where they're at, and trying to feel like they belong. So me, it's understanding like who can these kids talk to, and understanding that as I tried to help create a safe space, and I started a GSA group, the first one in our district. And then I worked with trans students trying to get comfortable. And the suicide rate, and kind of I think Lisa alluded to it, suicide rate for LGBTQ is very high. But now even funding cuts are being proposed for the National Suicide Hotline for the LGBTQ youth on top of that. So we're in a situation where we have got to stand up and stand together and be vocal. And if federal funding is being threatened at our schools, then we need to help the schools stand up to that and somehow not break the law, but as I say, bend it as much as you can, because we must not make students feel alone. They must understand that we're with them and that we support them. So, thank you.
I appreciate that, Bernie. All right, Sam, I'm going to ask you the same question, and I'm going to ask the question again just for any latecomers who might not have heard it the first time. What do you see as the most important issue for Beaufort County's LGBTQ plus community?
So, first of all, I wanted to say to Bernie, like, don't worry about having written things out because really everything out. So I'm going to read from that now. It helped me organize my thoughts. The question being, what do I see as the most important issue for the queer community here? There are quite a few that come to mind, but I think the main problem is the lack of hope and of mass mobilization. I say this especially as a young queer person now living in the South in community with other young queer people. This has been there has been a massive wave of LGBTQ plus people fleeing the South, especially South Carolina, because they feel they have no future here. They feel abandoned, stuck, and unsafe, both as a result of the ignorance and bigotry from the larger community and everything from deafening silence to aggressive attacks on our community at the whim of our politicians. That, coupled with the all-out legislative and social attack being carried out on queer and trans people, especially here in South Carolina, makes for a state that not a single LGBTQ plus person I have talked to here has been 100% confident that they want to continue to call home. In the same breath that I say this, I must also acknowledge that for most of these people, leaving is not an option. For the part of the Beaufort County and South Carolina Democratic Party, I see this problem as having a clear solution. Speak up for your LGBTQ plus constituents. Take action for us. Do not trade us in for the sake of poaching part of the so-called centrist Republican voter base. There are a massive amount of people in this county and in this state that don't vote because you give them nothing to vote for. If you check the Beaufort County or South Carolina Democratic Party websites, there is no listed or provided platform on which you stand. That's what I feel the need to say the most. If you take nothing else from tonight, take this. Stand your ground for us.
Thank you, Sam. I'm going to go on to our next question, which is, what is the most important issue for you, your family, and or your household? And I'm just going to go through the same order, so we'll start with you, Lisa.
Are you sure you could start with someone else? I mean, I'm okay with that. Okay, I'll go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to give a shout out to organizers and everyone showing up, even though we had to punt, shall I say. And even though there are a few of us, the mighty, we will hopefully will overcome and get in some good trouble. And Sam, I absolutely love having you on here as a Gen Xer. It's nice to talk to someone who's not my age. There, I'm not going to out you on any age or anything like that. So, speaking of the most important thing, so I'm 56 and I'm very happy to say that I have white privilege. I have English is my first language. I have ability physically. There are many things that I have. And I think the biggest issue right now is not having the control and the power over things that might happen to me. And as it was mentioned, I think Bernie said it, it is the trickle down. I can go out and I can do grassroots as much as I want to, which we need in all cases. And I think that my answer is twofold. The important thing is education and then our health insurance. I'll go with the education first. When my wife and I decided to come down here, we are the nannies for my great niece. Can you imagine me as your nanny? And this is what it's like, okay, all the time. My middle school kids were like, Miss Kenneke, have you ever heard of decaf? Right? Bernie, you've seen me in person. Angela, right? Sam, you know me in person. Anywho, so again, being down here, so we brought 8 bags of cheese curds and walked around to the neighbors and introduced ourselves because that's how afraid we were. And we have all of that privilege around us. And so it is if they can get to know who we are first, oh my gosh, the girls, they're so nice. They're so funny. And they bring cheese curds. That might sway them. We might be the only lesbians that they know. And so I think that that is a reason that we are here and it's important. And like Sam said, there are a lot of people who are exiting, who are leaving. And, I'm not in a big urban area right here. I can't imagine what it's like for my friends who are rural and still in the closet and those kind of things. And so I think the biggest issue is knowing that I have backup, which is hard because living in my small little neighborhood of 300 people, the sheriff in my neighborhood had a big Trump sign forever. And I was like, if I'm not feeling safe, what is it like for someone else? So that's a big issue for us. So I did talk about the safety and those things. And so hopefully educating some of the people who might want to kill me. And next is the healthcare and not knowing what's going to happen with our elected officials, so they never said that Roe v. that abortion rights would go away. Now they're going to come for our marriage and all of these things. And so I think that it is being validated, being seen, being heard. And I know that I am standing upon the shoulders of so many people who have come before me. And I know that I also, as a cisgender person, I also want to fight for my friends who are in the trans community, who are in the plus community, whatever that might be. And so trying to be a role model, even though it's scary for me, is one of the things that's important to me as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Lisa. And Michelle, same question for you. What do you feel is the most important issue for you, your family, or your household?
All right. So sorry, it takes me a little bit to just to figure out where to unmute in this. So I would say that something that's very important to me and my household and family is kind of to hit off of what Lisa said, as well as just safety and just feeling just all around feeling comfortable in the space and the community spaces that I'm in and that I'm existing. Another one, I guess, as one of the few people here who's African American, an African American individual here, the rights of individuals with disabilities. So I do kind of take care of my sister, and she does have a disability. And given a lot of the things that have kind of been happening, there's a lot of uncertainty and from me on knowing what steps I would even need to take next in the event of her losing her disability rights and her health care and things like that, because it's not something that we've been prepared for. um, and being able to just have a sense of just hope that we're not going to lose the things that are, keeping us alive or just keeping us going day to day is something that I find important, as well as like the same as education as well. Even though I am been out of school for a good bit of time, education for the younger generations coming up, it's important for them to know, to have the ability to access resources, to learn more about who they are, who they can be, and to not have that like censored. Information is a powerful tool, and I think a lot of people realize that, but that's also what makes it scary for some people. And I can sense that in those are the people who are kind of making some of these decisions. I feel like it's just based out of fear, you know.
All right, thank you, Michelle. And Bernie, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's the most important issue for you, or your family, or your household right now?
At this time, and I'm going to share a quick story, and I've shared it on my school board Facebook before, but I just want to share this. Back in the 90s, when I was younger, and at that time, it wasn't accepted as much as it really has become accepted now to be gay. I would go to this gay bar. There was one gay bar in town, and I would go there. I would park around the corner, across the street, and I would look and wait for no cars to be around, and then I'd run across, go inside, because I just didn't want people to know or think I was gay, especially not know I was gay. So, that was how we lived in the 90s. So I remember going in another gay bar one time, and they had to sign names, and I was like, so we, signed a fake name. I mean, it was scary, and it was, you felt different. You felt like it wasn't accepted, and people would make fun of you. You didn't want to be judged. It took a long time. People, a lot of people know without having to say it, and then they kind of assumed, and then eventually it became more comfortable. It also became, and I think Lisa kind of alluded to this too, that you get to a point in my age where you realize you almost have a responsibility to other people to let them know that, hey, I'm gay. I'm a normal person. I'm functional. I have a good job. I have a good life. I cook like you do when I want to. I go out like you do. I do the kinds of things that we all do normal. So I needed to represent that, because people were coming up and saying, hey, so and so, can you talk to my daughter? I think she's gay. They'd come up to us and realize that. Now, I've been with my partner for 30 years. We're not married, even though Iowa was one of the first ones to do same-sex marriage before it became legal federally, but we've chosen not to. And there's other things there, but the thing is, we're comfortable with where we're at now, and I'm not in a position like somebody younger, so I'm eager to really hear more what Sam's situation might be, because I'm in a situation where I'm not worried about necessarily being discriminated at this point about housing or things. I might be more concerned about any rights that might be taken away should I ever choose to get married when I'm 95 years old, or if health kinds of services, and making sure that we're not discriminated as a couple, if we're needing to take care of each other in some way medically. So those would be my concerns at this point. But our kids and grandkids are taught us something, because they're the ones that basically said, you're gay, it's okay. They're the ones that are quick to say two moms, or these are my grandmas. And they've taught us that it's okay, and allowed us to be more free too. But especially at this time in our life, it's like, who gives a crap? I mean, if you don't accept me now, hey, I really don't care. So, so, but we don't want that fear. So we don't want to live with that anymore. I don't want to live with civil rights being taken away anymore. I don't want to live with fear of being who I am and being discriminated against. Someone doesn't want to bake me a cake when I go to the bakery. I mean, those are the kinds of things, but that's nothing to what other people are truly being there's a lot more other people dealing with violence and other issues. So I feel like we're in a good spot in my age and my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. And Sam, do you mind answering the question as well?
So just a forewarning, this one's going to be a little more disorganized because it's the only question that I didn't finish writing out. But I think that may lend itself. Um, I related a lot to what Michelle was talking about. My mom has a PSP, a terminal neurological disease. And so she struggles with everything from speech to balance to muscle control, and she has faced significant social and medical discrimination since we have moved here. I'm on the autism spectrum. I've had a lot of difficulty keeping a job, um, in just meeting expectations of the workplace. On top of that, there's the sort of misgendering, consistent misgendering, both in the workplace and elsewhere. Um, I guess this is to say that the most important issues for me, well, I guess another example would be like most of my friends are people of color. They deal with everything from the institutional. Sorry, let me catch up with myself. Um, where did I? Oh, I'm checking my notes. Sorry. Yeah, economic and institutional barriers that they deal with and fear of police violence. Um, So I guess this is to say that all of my concerns are intersectional. So most of the queer people that I know, it's not just that they're dealing with. It's everything else that comes with other facets of their identity, other ways in which the system seeks to criminalize them or impose barriers on their lives. Um, I'm really nervous. I'm so sorry. That's I guess that is the most important issue to me then. um I can't even point to a specific one. But what's most important to me is ensuring that action is taken to sort of share and converge upon our mutual interests. The ways in which our identities intersect and the communities and that have a great deal of overlap and have a lot of shared goals and a shared idea of what a better future would look like. Ensuring that those communities um, can are allowed to move forward with significant um, strides. Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm nervous. Allowed to move forward with um, sort of collective policy goals. I guess that's my main concern because I can't point to one thing. I've dealt with so many different things that are crucial to myself and my household and my friends. But I guess my focus is where it all overlaps, where we can find a common ground and push on that common ground.
And Sam, I think you make a great point because there's a lot of intersectional issues that, we're talking about LGBT community tonight, but there's a lot of overlap between all of these minority communities and kind of the resource concerns and access concerns. All right, question number 3. Is there a piece of legislation or court decision that you would like to address? Um, and Lisa, I'm going to give a few suggestions if you don't have something specific in mind. The book bans here in South Carolina, bans on trans kids, gender affirming healthcare, the new anti-DEI bill, military rules, the suicide hotline, bathroom bills, the recent SCOTUS ruling on trans healthcare. There's a lot that you can probably touch on.
Oh, yeah, there sure is. Now, here's what I would love. Michelle, my friend, I would love to acquiesce and I would love to not go first. Michelle, would you be willing to jump in? because I'll bring it around at the end, but I really would love to hear someone else first. Michelle, would you be okay with that, my friend?
Lisa, I will tell you, I promised Sam he could always go last. So you'll
Oh,
be
no,
third in line.
okay. Sam, I will jump in before
For
you.
my part, I'm okay with not going last anymore because I actually have the next two questions written out and finished.
Perfect.
I will pass to Michelle.
Okay, so I will also start off and say I hadn't really written anything down, so I'm kind of going a little bit like verbatim, kind of hitting on the points that a lot of people have other people have said, but uh, just kind of what is coming to mind to me right now. So one of the things that I um, am kind of like upset with losing is the fact of access to the suicide hotline, and that being a crucial thing, not just for South Carolinians, but just LGBTQ individuals like nationwide. Um, I did have a brief moment in time where I applied to be like a crisis worker and things like that, and it is something that I do plan on hopefully being able to have the chance to go back to, when I'm ready and like I've taken the time that I need to pursue the career opportunity. But for it to not be accessible is just an outrage. There needs to be having at least some form of access to just having someone to talk to is life changing, no matter the situation, no matter like the time or the place, and it it's something we just can't go without. I myself can't say that I've had to use it, but I have, recommended it to other people that I've come across, in my lifetime, in my experiences, you know, whatever they if they don't feel that anyone directly close to them is someone they can go to, at least there's a stranger who knows and cares, that that would help reassure them that their life is important and valid, and them choosing not to make a decision that could affect them for the rest of their lives, can therein be the positive for someone else's life that they don't even realize later down the line. So, kind of all I have for that.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, since we're mixing it up, Bernie, I'll let you go next.
What? Okay, I will go. I thank you, Michelle, for that, and I agree with what she said as well. To me, the most harmful bill is the one that is anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason I say that is, to me, everything else is connected to it. All the other things that Angela just brought up. If you demonize diversity, equity, inclusion, you can ban books like The Bluest Eye or, um, This Book is Gay. You can discredit trans people and strip their medical care under being if they're under age 18, such as in the House Bill 4624. By the way, Representative I can't even say his name right, Heb Kurtzman, voted yes on that one, and they called it ban on sex mutilation of children. But you can do that when you start taking away diversity, equity, and inclusion. You can start demonizing people other than or things that aren't like you. You can erase history when you take away that. You can change the name of a ship like Harvey Milk and name it something else. You cannot allow trans in the military. You can discriminate funding for colleges and fight them because they want to teach DEI. You can take away scholarships for minority students. You can fire people in the name of being a DEI hire, even though they're very qualified. And you're doing the exact opposite. You're basically hurting some of the most deserving and qualified candidates at the schools and at the jobs. So it becomes a forced choice to choose DEI or merit-based because it should be one and the same. It's supposed to help. It's supposed to help hire the merit-based people, the people that deserve it, and not be excluded because of their color or their same sex or whatever it might be, whatever the minority. So it's just marginalizing people over and over again. And I think that bill, to me, is all inclusive, and all the others kind of like an umbrella fall under it. So
Thank you, Bernie. I think that's a really great point. Sam, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Are you sure? Because I can jump in if you want to go last.
Um, yeah, honestly, I will go last. I need to do something else. That there's someone sent me a message. Hold up. Go ahead.
Fantastic, busy young person. Love that you are multitasking on all of this. So I love, um, I'm going to yes and Bernie on that. Being a professional DEI speaker right at the beginning of COVID, why not? Why not start a speaking business on that topic with all of that? And I think that any bill that has hate with it, I agree, can go over anyone and everything. I think that I'm nervous about, I know we're talking state, but I'm nervous if, Department of Education, whole nother topic on that, right? And that is the trickle down. So I'm against banning books. I'm against all of this. And again, being in public education, completely different from private education, where someone is allowed to have a free and appropriate public education under FAPE until that goes away. Again, and I think that it's the delineation, the enumeration of who is going to lose, who is right now. Let's pick on trans kids because that's an easy thing. Went after gay marriage, but wait, I know two people who are gay, so we're not going to do that. But I don't know these trans folks. So let's go ahead and pluck that low fruit, so to say. And so I think that it's important for diversification. Again, I'm going back to the education side of things. And I love that this is being recorded. You're watching this on a social media platform that I probably don't even have because I'm older. However, I also need to be in my space so that I can try and educate those folks who maybe I can sway something with is it a GIF? No, a GIF. No, you know what I mean? Those type of things. Or I mean, I know, Sam, that was just for you. I did that one just like that. But again, if I can open up a conversation with, do you know that if they take an IEP away, that's an individualized education plan? Guess what, grandmother who has a kid who is in special education, that's you. Yes, you might have voted red and those kind of things, but that's going to hurt you. It's so cyclical, the hate and going through. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here because everyone, yeah, these kind of things. And so all of these bills are important and representation is important. And I love Catherine Fleming. Thank you for being on here and saying, what can I do? Here are certain things that we can do. Jason, I don't know how to say your last name, but thanks for putting that document out there for folks who can get involved. And again, and I have the luxury of time that I can do these things. And I will also say, it's very scary for me to put myself out there. And I am, again, I shouldn't have that issue, but I do. So I just want to say all of these things are important. Sam, take it away.
Oh boy. Okay. Let me navigate back to my right. So this is going to be the longest response I have. Um, the question being, is there a piece of legislation or court decision you'd like to address? Um, There is an endless list of legislation and court decisions that target and terrorize LGBTQ plus people in South Carolina in every aspect of our lives. An example being the recent gender affirming care ban for people under 18 that has made accessing gender affirming care increasingly difficult for all trans individuals, including myself. I had to pay an exorbitant amount of out of pocket expense for my top surgery because my surgeon wouldn't accept insurance, telling me her patients' insurance companies would initially agree to cover it, but would back out on both the trans client and the practice as soon as they learned it was a gender affirming surgery. MUSC in Charleston no longer provides any gender affirming care to patients of any age, which I know heavily impacts people living here in Beaufort County for fear of legal repercussions. Many people I know will go and have gone significant distances to find a reliable surgeon that will accept their insurance and give them an affirming experience. I did not have that option because my mother is disabled and cannot be left without care for very long. When asking fellow trans people living in the area what they struggled the most with, I've heard a lot of concern about discrimination, which you guys have mentioned, particularly workplace experience with employers not allowing their employees to use their preferred names and pronouns. This leads me to the issue I want to truly emphasize in response to this question: protections that are upheld by court decisions but not codified, and trigger laws that go back into effect when a court decision is overturned. Let's do a legal rundown of South Carolina. Workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity is federally protected under Supreme Court decision Bostock v. Clayton County, but there is no statewide South Carolina protection from discrimination, and it is still legal to discriminate in housing, public accommodations, and provision of goods and services, something I am often mindful of in my day to day. South Carolina still has its sodomy laws criminalizing queer sex and relationships codified, only kept from being in effect by the Supreme Court Lawrence v. Texas ruling. South Carolina Amendment 1, passed in 2006, banning gay marriage, is still on the books and will go into effect if the Supreme Court overturns Obergefell v. Hodges, as Justice Thomas has indicated he would like to do. South Carolina is the only state in the U.S. to still have gendered domestic violence laws that do not protect people in same-sex relationships from domestic violence or afford them any of the associated legal protections. It is legal to use the gay and trans panic defense in South Carolina court of law, and there is only a federal law defining and outlining hate crime, not a state one. Conversion therapy in this state is still legal. There is an alarming amount of new legislation targeting our community that I know my fellow panelists have mentioned, but we also cannot forget about the existing laws or lack thereof that could dramatically worsen the landscape for queer people in this state very quickly, or that have and will continue to do so.
Thank you for that, Sam. And I think that's information that maybe a lot of people were not aware of. So I appreciate you bringing that to the forefront. So we are doing really well on time, actually. So if there are questions in the chat, we'll probably be able to get to them. But our last question for tonight is, what qualities do you want to see in a candidate and or an elected representative? And let's start with Bernie this time.
Oh, Lisa's fault on this. Qualities. I think first of all, let's talk personality. I want somebody who will be present, not who will truly listen to the constituents or the people, and to get around and really not just ask them questions or what do you want to hear, but truly be present when they're talking to somebody. I have being from Iowa and being part of a lot of the Iowa state, very heavily involved with the caucuses, have met a lot of the people, and I could shake hands with somebody like Hillary Clinton. And as I'm shaking hands with her, she's moving on to the next person. Her eyes, I get, it's one of those kinds of things where somebody, and I met Kamala Harris, who was very present and sat there and talked to me and looked me directly in the eye. So that's key. That's very important, to be present. I think one of the most important things is somebody to have empathy. That's one of my biggest key things. It's having an appreciation for everyone sitting at the table. And if they're not at the table, then you invite them and you ask them to be a part of it. And it's up to them if they want to join or not. Because I'm not going to say you can't specify if it has to be. I mean, I want somebody to be very accepting of everybody. Diversity, having understanding of obviously working backgrounds, especially in an area where I was reading today about, they talk about as a wealthy area and big golfing area. Yes, it is, but there's also a lot of people that did a lot of hard work, and people have day-to-day jobs, and people in hospitality industries and a lot of other industries. We're not all sitting here rich. Thank God I was able to move down here, but I don't consider myself a wealthy person either. But anyway, but I want somebody who is willing to be empathetic. They may not have gone through what someone has gone through, but they must be able to be able to feel themselves in their shoes in some way. At least be willing to try to do that. We haven't all been through everything that people have been through, but we need to be able to be open to understanding it. in counseling, I couldn't say I understand everything that someone talked to me about every issue, but I could relate to other issues that were similar for me I could help me relate to they were dealing with. So I also want someone that's obviously going to be willing to stand up for everyone and speak truth to power, um, and to be uncomfortable to talk about history, uh, because if we don't talk about it, if we don't teach it, we don't learn from it, we're going to redo it. And that's kind of what's happening right now, and I'm watching it. We need to take back our country. We need to stand up for democracy, bottom line. And like I said, yes, politics is local, but it's a top-down effect going on, and all the states are following what's happening nationally, and they're all getting permission to do things that I don't like what's going on, and I don't like what they're doing. So I think we need to stand up and again have empathy and stand up for each other. So that's what I want.
Thank you, Bernie. Michelle, I'm going to ask you next. What qualities do you want to see in a candidate or elected representative?
All right. So Bernie hit on every note that I feel it was possible to say. I am just going to piggyback off of it a little bit, but with just my own, what I would like to see out of a representative or a candidate is just somebody who is truly like caring and empathetic, who truly does think about the little people in the back, for those who are too afraid to raise their voices, you know, at times, or who don't feel that they have a voice that is going to be listened to, as often, especially in, our state, and even in the surrounding like small town areas, that we have here in South Carolina. We just need someone who legitimately cares, regardless of what their personal like faith or background may be, to ultimately make the decision that is ultimately best for the people. Because it's really about the people at the end of the day, and that's what seems to be forgotten. It's like the decisions that are being made truly affect people, and if you don't think about all the people that are being affected, um, then you're not really, your heart. I feel like their hearts aren't fully in it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Michelle. Thank you. All right, Lisa.
And yes, thank you. I would love an elected official who is non-traditional. And here's what I mean by that. I want someone who is a trailblazer, who doesn't always fit the norms, because as both Bernie and Michelle have said, this, in my opinion, this is an opportunity for our state to turn around all of the ugly that has happened, and to bring in different voices and different ways of doing things, not the status quo. And we might not win the marathon. Well, we want to win the marathon. Sorry, we might lose, this. Think that it's just getting some traction into, again, I'm coming from Wisconsin, so I haven't been here my whole life, but just seeing the status quo that is here, I want someone who is well informed, maybe who has walked the walk that some of us have. They don't have to be an LGBT person. Maybe they know someone, whatever it might be, but that they have a story that no one can take away from them. I want them to have a spine. I want them to be able to say, you know what, that's wrong. And then have enough coaching if they're new to politics to be able to say, here's how we fight back against this bully and against this regime and all of those kind of things. So I want someone who is going to just come in, maybe have never even heard of them, and they're like, blow me out of the water in a good way. Bad metaphor. But they can carry forward, and speak, like everyone has said, speak for all of us, but have the spine to be able to do something, and then have a lot of money behind them, because that's what it takes. So hello, rich donors out there who are listening. Thanks. Go, Sam.
I guess I would add to Angela, you didn't even have to. I guess I would add to that. have a spine not just in standing up to what we all probably here feel opposed to, but also within the party, to have a platform and to stand on business about that platform. I'm gonna read through what I typed up now. The people that I speak for, especially young queer people, have an immense distrust of the Democratic Party and the political process as a whole. We feel that the Democratic Party, from the national down to the local level, is disconnected from our communities and their best interests. And we are frustrated with candidates and hierarchies that pledge to accomplish change for us, but do not stand with us as we make change in our own right. Any candidate or elective representative's first and foremost responsibility in earning my vote or the vote of my community would be regaining that trust with absolute transparency and commitment to honoring their word and the platform they stand on. And they must stand on a solid, precisely spelled out platform. I want to make very clear that I am not here just as an individual facing individual challenges and having individual wishes that I am imploring the Beaufort County and South Carolina Democratic Party to address. I am here as someone who is part of a larger and interconnected set of marginalized communities, and I am here doing my best to represent the collective challenges that we face and futures that we imagine for ourselves. I am deeply involved in working towards liberation for all, and I will continue working towards that, whether or not the Democratic Party here or elsewhere lifts a single finger to help us move forward with enacting the change that we want to see. Of course, I would much prefer the help. This is my invitation extended to the Beaufort County Democratic Party. The people, as I know them, are not looking for a single cramped cart pulled by a single donkey. They are looking for a valuable ally and collaborator in a larger collective struggle, and it is my highest hope that the Beaufort County and South Carolina Democratic Party will come to embody that. Thank you for having me today. So I'll go ahead and mute.
Thank you so much, Sam. We have one question here in the chat box from Catherine Fleming Bruce. Says, "Hello, everyone. Thanks for doing this. I'm a candidate for the U.S. Senate, and I want to know what is the most important thing I can do for you on the federal level that will improve your safety and quality of life." So I will let you guys answer that as you feel comfortable.
Go, Sam, go.
Okay. I guess this is kind of in the vein of the third question, but I think something that is perhaps not as talked about is codifying existing legal precedents. That's the thing that scares me the most, is in the case that the Supreme Court manages to overturn another landmark case, and with it, all of the provided rights and protections. That is what scares me a significant amount. Obviously, that's not the sole thing, but I think that is something that I prioritize, is thinking about how do we shore up our rights and protections? How do we make sure that it's harder for them to be taken away? And that's what I think of in that vein, is codifying things in law, and I guess on the flip side of that, not bending to not compromising, not bending to the whims of people that are trying to um, pull out these Christmas tree bills, and get a ton of other provisions passed under one thing. I think the legislation should stay true to what it seeks to accomplish, and not cause any further unintended harm. But that's what I would say.
Thank you, Sam.
I Not sure. I like what Sam said, and I agree with Sam. I think that's huge. I think it's difficult right now, especially in light of everything seems to be the Supreme Court, the Congress doesn't seem like they're doing anything. They're all under the again under Trump's power and control right now, and so it feels almost useless. And we can't feel that way. We must rise to the occasion here. So I guess I just feel like the Congress has not done a whole lot. They're sitting back and doing whatever really Trump wants in regards to any of these culture wars that are going on. And we've kind of gotten away from the legislature that, I don't care about the damn eggs, but let's get back to the basics of why Congress is there and legislate and stop allowing Trump just to run over everything with executive orders. Why is Congress there? It feels almost like, and I know that Democrats can only do so much because we're in the minority right now. I get that, and I feel like they're trying, but I just feel like we need to constantly continue to hold people accountable, and continue to hold the government accountable because I believe they're corrupt, and uh, so that I mean that goes a lot farther than just talking about the LGBTQ, but it's the culture wars that they're running on. They're using the culture wars to get their base riled up, and we need to get back to just normal legislation and dealing with the day-to-day things that really affect our lives. It's not whether or not a trans person uses a bathroom. It's a lot more about the economy and the other things that we need to be talking about. And I just feel like we've gotten away from that. How that can be done, I don't know. God bless you. So
Did anyone else want to answer that question? And I can read it again. It's what, so Catherine's asking as a candidate for the Senate, what's the most important thing she can do on the federal level that would improve your safety and quality of life? Michelle, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry, I went back to find the question in chat. So, I think I'm still gonna need a little bit more time, so I'll pass it off to Lisa.
Thanks,
I want
Michelle. I'll go. Oh, go, Bernie. No, go, Bernie, go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one thing, that suicide hotline that Michelle talked about earlier. If that's something, I don't know if it's been stripped yet or not. I know they're talking about it. I think that's huge. And I had some comment on Facebook say, well, they can just use any hotline. People don't need a special hotline for certain people. They don't understand what it takes to feel safe and to be able to talk to somebody that they trust. And so I think that would be something that specific that could be worked on, to not allow that to be defunded. So, okay, Lisa, your turn.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think that for me, it is holding people accountable. Yes, very, very important. And thank you, Annette, for putting into the chat here that the Beaufort County Democratic Party has call scripts. And so I think that it's important for us to have the information, like even on a little index card, when someone says blah, 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 we can say, well, the fact that Sam could just here's everything. Thank you, Sam, for your brain. And I know that you added something else in there too. I think telling the stories is important. I think that people getting to know who we are. And the other thing, I did send a message to the representative and I said, I want our law enforcement to also be educated so that they can't just pull someone over. And it could be BIPOC, it could be a Black and Indigenous person of color, it could be a trans person for whom English is not their first language. I want them to be educated on what the law is. And I want to give my time. Sam, if you want to, I'm done. Thanks for having me. Sam, do you want to jump in and say what you said in the comments, please?
Sure. I just put in chat. I think the last thing I forgot to add that I think is important, do not vote to represent corporate interests. Your power in office is only as good as what you do with it, not how long you keep it. You are there to represent your constituents first. That first and foremost is my answer to that question.
All right. Well, I think that concludes everything for our questions. I know Julia's going to do a wrap up, but I just want to say thank you to everyone that's attending and taking time to hear these voices. I think this is a really important and needed conversation. And thank you to everyone who participated, because this is going to be a public thing. You're putting yourself out there, and it's not an easy thing to do. And I really appreciate all of you for doing this.
Okay, I see one person with their hand raised. If you could just put your question in the chat, that would be preferable. But in the meantime, I'm just going to thank all of you for coming again. And in particular, I want to thank Angela for moderating us tonight, Angela Wright, and our excellent panelists. I am humbled and so impressed by what you've shared with us tonight. This was an education for me. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. I also want to bring your attention to what was in the chat. One of the people was asking before the session started about connecting to the LGBTQ plus caucus. And the state level Democratic Party has a caucus, and they are currently calling themselves the Pride Democrats Council. And so there's information in the chat about how to connect with that group at the state level if you'd like to. And then I've just added at the bottom of the chat the link for you to be able to sign up for the rest of our listening sessions. This is the first of, I believe, 7 groups. And I think it's very important for us to all be listening to each other as we go through this process, because none of us is just one thing for one thing. And I think, as was mentioned earlier, there's a lot of areas of commonality when we can definitely be pushing together and want to be able to do that, want to understand the rest of our community. So with that, I think we have wrapped this up, unless Angela or one of the panelists wants to correct me. I think that's it for tonight. I've seen some thank yous coming up in the chat, so I'm going to let y'all stay to see those, but I think we're finished. Thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to end the recording now. I think this is just the recording that I'm ending. Let's see. Let's do it up here where I'm more sure.